Day 18 of ARIS-3, NASA's site on Mars. In the film, the day of Mars is called Sol. Commander Melissa Lewis, botanist Mark Watney, IT guru Beth Johnson, pilot Rick Martinez, flight surgeon Chris and chemist Alex, who are collecting some samples from Mars. Then they see a storm coming on their site on Mars. Mark Watney is outside who tells them to stop. There is a sandstorm all around. Commander Melissa orders takeoff to save everyone's lives. Watney is left on Mars. NASA Director Teddy Sanders tells the press that our Hermes satellite, ARIS-3, has aborted its mission and left the site because they had no other option. And Mark Watney is dead. There is peace on Mars after the storm. It is Sol 21st means 21st day on Mars. Mark Watney is alive. Mark has an antenna inserted into his body. He goes to his astronaut station and removes the antenna from his body and sews up his wounds. Then he makes a video recording of what is happening there. Mark can't sit there and wait for death. Therefore, he counts the survival things present there to see how long he can survive. He records his videos every day. And after doing math calculations, he has 300 sols of ration left. Luckily, Mark is a botanist, so he thinks of growing potatoes inside the station from Mars soil and astronauts' poop and excrement. He creates artificial rain with the help of hydrogen and oxygen, but something goes wrong. Because he has forgotten to count the oxygen he breathed and explodes, but the second time he calculates correctly. And becomes successful. And artificial steam starts forming and the soil becomes wet. Sol 54 the first potato plant emerge. Mars mission director Vincent Kapoor asks NASA Director Sanders to locate Mark's dead body. But Teddy Sanders refuses Vincent due to public and political reasons. At Space Center, Texas, Mindy Parks sees some movement at the site of ARIS-3 and calls Vincent urgently, informing him that Mark is alive. Teddy Sanders asks to hide the news of Mark's survival from his crew because they are still on a mission for 10 months. Mark plans ahead. NASA's next Mars mission ARIS-4 is going to be at Schiaparelli Crater, 3,200 kilometers away. Mark has only one rover and its battery is also very low, which will last 50 kilometers, so he will have to think something else. It uses plutonium pods for heat to reduce battery consumption. NASA announces the launch of its ARIS-4. And talks about bringing Watney alive. Seeing Mark Watney's movement, Vincent has understood that Mark is going towards the Pathfinder, which was stopped 70 kilometers away. Watney, with the help of his rover, reaches a decommissioned Pathfinder in 1997. Mark finds the Pathfinder buried in the sand with the help of a parachute lying at the site, which is still working. He sends some messages to NASA with the help of Pathfinder's camera. Due to lack of any means of communication, they communicate by sending messages through camera movement. NASA people explain to Mark how to do direct chatting by hacking the operating system of the rover. And he starts talking by sending direct messages. Mark asks about the remaining crew members. So Vincent tells him that we have not yet told them that you are alive. Mark gets very angry on this and writes abusive language. Vincent writes that we do not want to spoil their concentration by telling them they are on a mission in space. Hermes has spent 4 months in space since leaving Mars. NASA director tells them that Mark is alive, and we are telling you this after 2 months. Mark's potato plants have become quite big. NASA people talk that they will reach Mars in 868 sol and Mark has 900 sols of ration left. A part of Mark's station leaks and explodes. Mark's helmet is leaking, oxygen level is decreasing, he sticks duct tape on it. His potato crop and new potatoes have been completely destroyed. Hermes crew members communicate with Mark. Mark resets his station. Here Rich Parnell, a scientist from a private lab, does his math calculations. NASA launches ARIS-4 to Mars. But it explodes. A secret Mars mission is being prepared in China. The scientists there talk about helping NASA in bringing Mark. Rich Parnell meets Vincent Kapoor and explains his planning. How can the Hermes satellite be brought near Mars? His calculations are correct, but the NASA director does not want to risk the lives of all the crew members in exchange of one person. A member of satellite Hermes tells Melissa that someone has emailed his wife. When he opens the email, Rich Parnell writes his planning to him. How can they go closer to Mars and save Mark? All the members of Hermes agree to save Mark. Here NASA gets to know that Hermes astronauts are going to save Mark. There is communication between Melissa and Mark about how they will meet each other. Hermes departs from its Earth orbit. Mark also leaves with his rover. Mark goes to the Pathfinder and throws out useless things from it. Hermes astronauts also do their complete planning. Mark takes off from the Pathfinder's launcher. As per planning, his automated capsule opens but he becomes unconscious. Communication between those people stops for some time. Mark regains consciousness. The people at NASA are happy to hear from Mark again. Melissa tells Mark about her distance from him. Mark tells Melissa that he can fly high like Iron Man by making holes in his gloves. They blast a bomb by mixing sugar, oxygen and some chemicals so that their satellite can get speed through thrust. Melissa ties herself to the hook and goes to get Mark, but Mark is far away. Mark comes out of the capsule and flies upwards, puncturing his gloves. Melissa sets her position. Melissa and Mark can't hold each other. But Mark grabs hold of Melissa's strip and gets entangled in it and reaches Melissa. And Melissa brings Mark inside the satellite. Melissa informs NASA that Mark has been rescued. Everyone at NASA becomes happy and people across the country become happy with live broadcasting news.